So here we are at Multicore World and welcoming back our very good friend Pete Beckman, year on year supporting the community. But that's the first time that I will ask you, why? What makes you come back to Multicore World year on year? What makes it different? Because you speak all over the world.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks for the opportunity to be here. It's really a couple things. So one, of course, this is a great venue. The New Zealand is always extremely welcoming. We have local people from universities, we have government officials, we have others who come, and so that's fantastic. But also, there's a community that has developed of people who are across the field, right? From HPC people to startups, to local folks and students. And so, being able to work and discuss and have dinner and have lunch and talk to people about those ideas and what's happening next is great. Also, in my particular area of research, New Zealand has committed to being green in many, many ways. And so, the idea of energy efficiency and improving the environment and maintaining sustainability, these are all themes that this workshop does well at.
Now, thank you very much for that. But in some way, we in New Zealand, perhaps small country mentality, we fail to recognize those things. But when I go to the United States and I speak about Matauranga Maori, which is indigenous science, and an absolutely beginner, everyone else from land-grant universities say, well, tell me more. What is about the settlement? But most importantly, the blending between science that has been around for thousands of years versus so-called Western new science. Do you have any thoughts about technology independence, particularly coming from the main centers where you have budgets which are well ahead of ours?
Yeah. So, as you know, I work with projects with Northwestern University with the Ojibwe, who are their own sovereign people in the United States, in the Midwest, in Michigan and Wisconsin and Minnesota, and we have deployed some projects with them. And I think, one of the things that both, in New Zealand and with the Ojibwe that we learn is that everyone has their own science question. And if we bring our questions rather than ask, what questions do you want to explore, we change the model, we change the dynamics. And so in working with local groups, whether it's a university or a sovereign nation or someone else, finding the science that they want to do, I think that's where, what's happening in New Zealand and what we're doing, and even with small budgets, you can ask questions and you can dive into shared problems, right? Working on problems together.
Yeah. And perhaps the question about the science question, it's a question on its own, because in other cultures, the concept of science as we from the Western world see it is different. I mean, the blending between spirituality, philosophy, and science is a different angle. But I want to bring this into the topic of your talk, which is AI, or that shrunk the AI, which is the hot flavor of the month, which has been running for some time. In some way, it's a democratization because anyone can consult these large models, but in the other way, they're missing the point that it's running elsewhere, and it's someone else who is telling you how it's modeled. Giving me a little bit of forward thinking, because the world is full of consultants, futurists, and analysts, but they never touch what's happened under the hood, which you actually do.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I will say that I do have some concerns, which is that when software products initially start, they're often free and open, and then once they find a way to monetize,
there's no free, not
things change. So I really want AI, especially these large models that can be used for public good, to continue to be open. And so I think that means that the science community has to be working together to build those kinds of models. What do I expect is going to happen in the future? I expect that students and professors and small companies will be embedding AI into all of the devices they make. Not just expensive $1,000 phones, right? But your water sprinkler at home, right? That waters your lawn. All those devices will have AI.
But won't be losing. In the same way, I used the example that once upon a time I was able to extract the square root of a number by hand. And that's still in my lifetime, but it's something that you cannot ask any student or practitioner to do these days. So same with a car. Some people still remember the days that they could dismantle and assemble a car on its own. That's not going to happen these days. But in terms of AI, I want to bring the case of the Turing Award winners a few years ago. I hope to remember the name, but I want to highlight Jan LeCun, Joshua Bengio, and the third person, I'm missing the name. But two of them are in one side of the debate of AI, and Jan LeCun, which is the AI chief scientist or whatever title of Meta, was on the other side, pushing the open sourcing of everything in AI. You have any thoughts on that?
I think that in terms of our ability to trust, we're going to have to get to the point of having large open models, and that the community can rely on large open models in the same way that we have open medical procedures. We don't send patients into a room and say, you can't know what's going on. The doctor's going to do something and you won't know. No, we want to know what the procedures were. We want to see the science that says it's the right procedure, and we have to have the same with AI. But another part of your question is also, I'll say, a more philosophical human perspective, which is no matter what AI becomes, as humans, we should choose to do the things that bring us joy and pleasure. So if that's driving a car, well, then maybe you end up having a car that you drive, right? If it's gardening on your hands and knees and not having a robot, that's fine. So we will have to come to terms with deciding what we choose to do versus what we allow automation to do.
Now, in the topic of the other things that surround AI, I've seen this in different revolutions. People miss the point that there are many other things that enable AI to happen. And in terms of technologies, interconnect or power or devices. Are we creating an elite of people that only program this and that and forgetting everyone else, and that in the long term? In other words, NVIDIA is taking the advantage of riding that way, but all the other companies that are producing the ingredients that make AI possible, are we moving too fast in certain direction and forcing a bottleneck in other?
Yeah, I'm less worried about the computing, I'll say, monopoly or ownership. I'm more concerned about the data. So, right now, as you know, there are multiple questions about what data can you use to train large models. Can you read someone's book and use it to train your model? Is that a problem from intellectual property? And if it's the case that only the largest companies can afford to get the rights to train models, then I think we're in trouble, because it will have narrowed that space and removed students from coming up with better ideas, right? And professors and startups, right? So I think the data is a key part of that, making sure we have open data sources.
Thank you very much.